Are you a frog throwing up its stomach?
That's what you think a frog throwing up its stomach would sound like?
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually,
Are
that's
you a frog having an orgasm?
no, actually. See, get your mind out of the gutter. It's frog-based very much. I will say it is a frog having the chills after he just peed in the morning.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah. You know that little chill you get sometimes right after you pee?
No.
Is that just a male thing?
I have no idea.
Have you never experienced that in your life? Like this, like sometimes you're peeing and while peeing, you get like just a little chill?
Nope.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I hope that's other guys or other people experience this because I experience it almost daily.
Really?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Not so much daily. Let's say weekly.
Listeners, tell us if this happens to you. Comment on our Instagram.
I think it's because your urine is warm and it's leaving your body, warmth, and for a split second, your temperature drops a little bit, your body temperature. So you're like, so you go, Well, a frog would. I go, that's what I do. But that sounds way nastier. Anyway, the person laughing at my nastiness,
yes.
Her name is Dr. Caitlin Cook.
Yes, my first name is Doctor, my middle name is Caitlin, and my last name is Cook.
Oh, Caitlin's your middle name? Mm-hmm. I thought your last name was Caitlin.
No, my first name is Doctor.
I know, but I thought your last name was Caitlin Cook hyphenated.
Oh, Dr. Caitlin Cook.
Yeah.
And the person naming me is Prime Minister Sean Patton.
I'd like to be probably Prime Minister.
Yeah.
If I, based on my personality,
yeah.
Which country would I be Prime Minister of?
Ooh. Australia.
Really?
Yeah.
I have an Australian personality?
You're very loud.
I'm very loud.
You drink lots of beer.
I do drink lots of beer.
And you're pretty adventurous.
Okay. That third one was like, where's she going with this one? And you throw things hoping they'll come back to you and they don't.
And you put immigrants on islands. And
I don't do that. I don't do that. Well, actually, if we're talking about like if my feelings and my emotions are my immigrants, I do put them on islands and avoid them. It's a mental problem I have. I've got to save myself.
Yeah.
I've got to free my emotions so that they can come back to the motherland, which is my brain.
Okay. I'll take it.
Okay, if you were a doctor based on your personality, you would be a podiatrist.
Why? Because I have a foot fetish?
No.
I don't, but...
No, because you realize you are all about the small things that are important that no one else wants to pay attention to.
Like feet?
Feet are arguably some of your most important appendages.
Truth.
If you didn't have feet, you'd be fucked.
No, there's lots of people that don't have
feet. I know, and talk to them. They're probably like, yeah, I'm fucked. This sucks. They have to get fake feet, which then they're fine.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And your foot. And a podiatrist takes care of those things. I'm trying to compliment you and just
you're failing every time.
All right, how about this? I think you be a podiatrist because you're all about kicking it.
Damn, son. All right.
Yeah.
And our guest this week. Oh, wait, we didn't explain the podcast. If you're a new listener and you're just listening to frog sounds, pee, and shit about feet, you'd be pretty confused about what this podcast is. So this podcast is 5 words. It's me and Sean and a guest. And the guest has a story that they're going to tell us. But before they tell us the story, we say, hey, tell us 5 key words of that story. And they give us 5 words. And we try and figure out what the story is based on those 5 words and what we know about our guest. And we nail it. And then they tell us the real story, which is redundant because we nailed it the first time. That's sarcasm.
Yeah. Sarcasm, but I tell you what, I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
Because you stand by what you see. Dare I say, you put your foot down quite a bit.
All right. Our guest is the wonderful Glenn Wool. He is just a fantastic human being. Just a big bear of a man. Makes you smile every time you see him. Makes you laugh. Fantastic comedian. You've known him for a lot longer than I have, but I've enjoyed hanging out with him over the past several years.
Yeah. Glenn is like if... oh man, like if I start complimenting Glenn now, this is going to get real ridiculous.
Yeah.
But he's just a he is actually like, you ever see the movie City of Angels? Point is, in this movie, if angels are willing to,
I have not.
the angels are, I think it's like if they're willing to like cut their wings off, they become human. And Glenn is almost like an angel man who decided like, hey, I don't want to go back to heaven. I've got to spread joy here on earth.
Well, this is getting ridiculous. I love it.
He's a fucking great guy.
He's a great guy.
And yes, it's partially because he's Canadian.
Yes.
They're nice people.
So please enjoy this episode.
Hilarious comedian.
If you're in New York, get tickets to Good God on July 21st. We're doing it on the roof, social distance style with masks. Sean's going to perform. I'm going to perform.
Snap.
That's our first date in a while. So if you're in New York, come out and enjoy the episode.
Yeah. And remember to let us know if you have a little pee chills.
Yes.
'Cause I'm
Comments
curious.
on our Instagram. We want to know.
All right. Later.
Bye.
Wee. Wait, reading glasses is something I think every person's got to get used to the idea of at like 35.
Yeah, well, I made it all the way to 45 before I needed them. So.
Are you 45?
Oh yeah. Oh, you better believe it.
I don't. I
What?
don't.
I always thought you were the exact same age as me.
And I always thought you were the exact same age as me. I'm 29. So this is weird. This is weird that A, you've aged so well and I have aged so poorly.
Well, and the fact that we eat at the same restaurants and basically have the same lifestyle too.
The fact that according to one, I can't remember a specific Edinburgh writer, not critic, I stole your spiritual bonhomie.
Bonhomie. Are they from New Jersey?
I don't know.
That sounds like a French Bon Jovi cover band.
Yeah. I almost want to like look at. I remember there was
don't dig into that garbage.
No, it wasn't bad. It was just the guy. The guy was like, he's got the spiritual. I think it was spiritual bonhomie of Glenville.
Yep.
Is that
And that's
bonhomie? Bonhomie?
Is that a word?
It's bonhomie.
It's
Bonhomie.
Yeah, but I like bonhomie.
Well, that I like because that could make us bonhomies.
Bonhomie.
What's up, bonhomie?
Yeah. You actually messaged me, hey asshole, I heard you stole my joy de vivre. I want it back.
That's great.
Sorry, bud. Didn't mean to walk away with your joy de vivre. Whatever
Yeah.
shit that is.
Yeah, you know how down I've been since you took it?
I've been really, look, when you got Glenn Wool's joy de vivre,
Mm-hmm.
people pay attention.
And you mix that with Sean Patton's joie de vivre, you're double dosing. You double dipped.
I mean, yeah, if you look at us right now, we do, there you go. There it is. A chalice full of water.
Sweet child, it is 8 p.m. here. It's a lockdown. It's gin o'clock.
Is that gin? I'm impressed.
Nice. Wait, so you're in England right now?
I am.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a sad story, but not a bad one. My wife's sister died right before the lockdown, so we had to rush back. So yeah, I was in Canada. Yeah, it's been odd. It's like your head's still sort of spinning. You sort of wake up, go, what am I back in England for? It's been like 3 months even.
Yeah.
So you guys were you living back in Vancouver, back in Canada?
Yeah. It was all. I mean, we were only ever going to be back for a year, and then we were coming back here. So it's not a total shock to be here. But yeah, it just happened so quickly, and then the whole world shut down too.
Yeah. that'll prevent plans from taking place. Wait, just so you know, by the way, we're already recording. We don't have like a big lead and ramp up set up. We'll do all that. We do all that in like a separate segment. We like our audiences. We call them the legends. If you didn't know that, audiences, that's what you're called amongst us.
All right. I like that.
We like them to feel like they're just in the room with us.
Mhm.
Just it's like they woke up and they're like, oh, the conversation's already happening. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Hmm.
I felt because I hate that when you start an interview or you sit down for an interview and then you like there's all this good stuff and you're like, well, why aren't we just recording this? Because then it's gonna, once it starts, then
Yeah,
it
once
all
it
dries up.
all right, we've got Glenn. Well, Glenn, so you are a big fan of horses, right? Set me up for that picture. I don't even know if you have a horse bit. I do know. This is why I say that. So Glenn lived in New York for a summer? Caitlin's just gonna walk. But that's all right.
I'm sorry, I had to take a toy away from the dog that was being super loud.
Oh, there we go. We have a dog here in the studio.
Yeah.
So Glenn lived here in New York for a summer, and both of us lived in the same apartment with Rebecca Trent, proprietor of the Creek and the Cave.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that there was a time where the Creek and the Cave would close down at 4 a.m. as they're legally obligated to. And she would let certain people, specifically the two burly gentlemen she lived with, stay at the Creek and drink booze for free till 7 in the morning. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's exactly what happened. So I'm definitely saying that. I'm seeing it.
I have no recollection of it.
There are only 2 bars that I've ever, maybe, it's been known to happen, stayed drinking past lockdown. And, the Creek and the Cave might have been one of those 2.
Yeah. Yeah. The creek is in a reference to the nonstop flowing of booze.
Yes.
And the cave is a reference to, where you end up
Mentally.
coming out of the sunset is shining. Like, oh, I've been in a cave with a creek. So just in case you don't know who Glenn Will is, I can describe him in this. This will describe what kind of guy he is. He's the guy who, on these late night drinking sessions among friends, smoking cigarettes inside, you're not supposed to. Glenn always, and no one even notices if this happens because they're having such a good time, has taken total control of the music. Right? You don't even realize. You're like, and it's not like there's a jukebox, obviously, and it's not like everyone's constantly getting up and being like, hey, there's not a song. Somebody keep the music on. The music's just playing. And everyone's like, this music's great. And obviously some deity, some drunken deity wants us to keep drinking because these songs keep playing. And then you realize, wait, I couldn't tell you where any of this music comes from. I don't know any of these artists, but I'm a fan now. And that's because Glenn's got this deep cut iPod. I'm going to say iPod. That's what it was back then.
Yeah.
This deep cut where but there was this one song from some Canadian band that was all about horses. You know that song?
Oh, I do. That's Corb Lund.
You ever heard of Corb Lund, Caitlin?
No.
It makes Rebecca cry every time. I had to stop putting it on because she gets so misty-eyed. She loves horses.
Yeah.
She loves Corb Lund now, too.
History of horses.
Horse soldier.
Yeah. It was a very good, very emotional, very like, this isn't from America. It's showing too much passion and love for a creature that,
Well, you know what Corb Lund's trick is he actually grew up on a farm. So his country music is all like he's singing about tying knots and stuff. It's not all about that, but like that's where he's from. He sings about cows and all the different breeds. He's not an accountant that bought a cowboy hat and a guitar.
Yeah.
He's actually he knows
tying knots. I like it.
Yeah. He'll throw knot work into the songs. It's just like, yeah, this guy's a cowboy. He's not screwing
not.
around.
I got to throw some not work into my lyrics.
Yeah.
Wait, now, can you imagine if he was a comedian and he just had to throw like, I guess, I mean, like, that would actually be an amazing gimmick if while you're performing, you're also just different types of knots. So like you're doing a bit and then you finish it and you're like, and Siemens knot, and it ties into the bit somehow. And you're,
Yeah. I couldn't make it work, but that doesn't mean it's not funny.
Wait. So what is it like? Because I mean, you know, I'm reading. Of course, we're all reading fake news, real news, citizen news. Are you guys dealing with the same sort of like mask pushback in England?
Yeah. My lovely wife went to the grocery store today. We live deep in the heart of Essex, and she was the only one with the mask on, and people were sort of mocking her.
Jesus, really?
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, I could see if she was wearing a mask because she'd heard of conspiracy theory or like something like that. But no, it's a pandemic that shut the world down for 3 months. Get a damn clue in your head. It's not funny that somebody's walked past with a mask. It's funny that you watch so little of the news. You're just like, oh, who's the dentist in here?
Yeah. And that the stupidity is global.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we've taken on quite an American stupidity. I mean, we've got a mini-me version of your president, and I use that term loosely.
Oof. Has Boris Johnson though? Has he been wearing a mask?
I think he's got antibodies now.
Yeah, because he had it, which is crazy. I'll just say this out loud. I want Trump to get it. He deserves it.
I mean, if you know anything about a Greek tragedy, that's the only way this can end. But
yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Truth.
It's also like the thing about antibodies too is because you've got people here who are doing the same thing. Where they're like, I got antibodies, I'm good. But then like you start reading all these reports where it's like, yeah, but that might only last for 8 to 9 weeks.
Yeah,
and then you're able to be infected again, just like the common influenza. That's why we get infected year after year.
And the what this virus does, it basically has been sent to attack the American body type.
Yeah.
Some guy in a slanted pickup. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not telling tales out of school because I fear COVID myself. I've not lived the purest life form or life that I possibly could, but at least I'm scared of it.
Yeah. I would like to say it's been sent to attack the Birmingham lifestyle in both Birmingham, Alabama, and Birmingham, England, because that was I remember the first time I went to Birmingham in England. I walked around and I had a few moments where I was like, oh, you got them here too. Okay. you got your Dallases and your fucking, your certain cities that are like still big cities, but have a sort of like, man, fuck that, Jesus is right attitude, even though that's not a Birmingham accent. That's a Birmingham accent.
Yeah.
In America, we emphasize the ham part of Birmingham because.
Yeah, I believe you. But I mean, that's one thing about travel. You just realize there's just idiots everywhere. Like you go to China and you meet an idiot. I mean, in your head, you're like, well, China, it's they're all got PhDs and stuff. You can meet an absolute moron in China. It's just everywhere you go. And it's generally because they can't get out of where they're from. So you just, if you have that view of the world. You're like, well, everybody I've met from China is really smart. That's because you only meet Chinese people who get out of China.
Yeah. Yeah, you go to China, you meet an idiot. Sure, they can diagnose what kind of personality disorder you're dealing with because they've got that PhD, but they're still a.
They don't speak English very well.
except when they do. I went to China in 2018 and you're like, oh, I didn't realize from behind, if you'd have been talking to me, I'd be like, oh, wow, another white man. Oh, and it's just a Chinese lady. Like they'll hit you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, they've definitely, I mean, you can see as a nation, they focused on it because I've been going there for 15, 20 years now. And there was a time, like even in Shanghai, like it was tough to find somebody who spoke English. I remember I got lost in Shanghai. I got lost in a big park, and this is back when I had
your bald box.
Long locks and a much slimmer man. I have to say, I looked a little like a rock star, and I got lost, and I wasn't even on the path anymore of these woods. Like I was just sort of in the woods of a park.
Yeah.
I broke out of the bush and I came across all of these old people doing, the in-park exercise things where some of them,
Yeah.
And, like they all stopped. They're twisting and they're pulling and stuff. Like they were just like a dragon might as well have come out of the bush at them. It's like, what the fuck is this guy doing here?
Oh,
Dude,
wow.
I remember when I met you, which I want to say was 2009-ish, at Sweet, a show in the Lower East Side. That was yeah. So that's 11 years ago. You had the hair. You always the beard. I've only seen you without the beard once, and it's an image I can never shake. Not because it was bad. But it was just a, you know what I mean? It's like when you see those images of a shaven bear, you're like, interesting, you know? But you had the long hair. I don't remember if it was slimmer, but I definitely remember I still think you always had this like Paul Bunyan-esque husk, you know, this
you always stand up straight.
Yeah. You always had this like very like Gaston sort of like hello, and you had all kinds of shit on your wrists, which I think always looks cool as shit. And you came in, it was the kind of thing where when you went on stage, I was like, your accent threw me off because I was expecting a pure Norwegian. And I was like, oh, this guy's American. And then you talked about being Canadian, but the whole time you were on stage, I just thought at any moment you could do this with and an axe could appear on your shoulder, and it wouldn't be weird. It would be like, yeah, of course he's got a fucking axe. Look at this guy. He deserves it. He deserves to have this axe. So I can only imagine this version of you coming out of the woods while there's a bunch of old Chinese ladies doing the twist, doing the slow-mo twist, which they do. Yes, when I was in Shanghai, I saw that in Parks in the City, just like 40 people just doing like a very basic twist for an hour, and healthier.
Yeah, it was Phil I'm Gone. They put in the old person. They put in the stuff in the parks for the old people because they were really enjoying Phil I'm Gone, because it was slow movements and stuff. So it's all of that equipment in parks is for it's for cult suppression.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, so you said you've been going to China because do you remember Hong Kong the first time you went?
Yeah.
Was it, because I went in 2018 and it seemed like it was on the, a year later they'd start protesting and shit would get crazy, but it felt then like something was bubbling underneath the surface, but it was still, I still loved it. It was still like this very like, wow, it felt very like San Francisco meets Europe in a way. You know, it was just I just imagine what it was like back then when maybe the Chinese government wasn't trying to grab them back, you know, like they're doing now. And
Yeah, I think it was it was a bit freer. The last time I was there was the first day of the riots, or the second day.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I did a haunted tour about 2 years ago, and so many things happened.
Wait,
like,
what do you mean a haunted tour?
Every gig, something else. Like I had 2 dates that coincided with England soccer matches in the World Cup. So just every little, like, and it was a worldwide tour, and every time I think, okay, well, we're out of the woods now. We've had some rough luck, but here we go. Like, I got to China, and the Shanghai gig was pulled because it was a communist holiday, and the government was looking into it. Like,
Wow.
yeah, they sent an undercover cop to one of them, and then like, after this run of just horrendous luck, I was like, well, at least the Hong Kong shows sold out. Riot.
Oh my God.
Riot. Nobody could get to only half the people could get there. The Asia tour was very difficult, stacked on top of the British tour that had things just constantly like, oh, well, of course it. And it finally, I got to one, the show was sold out. It was a good gig. It was a place I'd never been to before. And I thought, well, at least I can always come back here. I know I've done good. They'll always have me. That place, Wuhan.
Ah.
Oh my God. That's so hilarious.
Glenn, what if like now is where we discover, like, wait, Glenn, did you leave anything behind? You're like, oh yeah, I ordered some bat medium rare and just couldn't finish.
Yeah, that's the only way I'll eat it. Yeah, I kept that in my bag for a few days because I couldn't eat it that night. Like, I like to let it really get spicy, you know.
Yeah. And I just wasn't hungry, and this kid I was like, hey, have this, buddy. And whoops.
Yeah, I always feed my infected meat to street dogs and just let them linger around the town.
Just see what happens. Yeah, dude.
That is the one theory about how it came out of Wuhan that I believe makes the most sense.
Wait, what is that
They
there?
started it? Yeah.
The cleaning guy from the because there's a chemical weapons factory in Wuhan. That's not debated.
Right.
Chemical test, like a virus testing, and they do have weaponized viruses in there. And the one theory, and it was a few different news sources, and it's not the cleaning guy in there took infected bat meat and either was feeding it to the street dogs that he'd caught, like every night. He either fed it to them or he sold it to the market in another form, saying, oh, I've got this meat. So the whole world has shut down and changed forever so this guy could supplement his wages by 50p.
Jesus, probably. I mean,
Yeah.
it also like, I mean, Caitlin and I were talking about this one the other night, and it you know, it leads to an argument when you start getting, but like the idea that like there was a moment where they could indefinitely have been like, okay, just stomp this one out, we got it. But the deep state, the powers behind the powers, like, wait, no, hold on, let's just see. It doesn't have a massively high mortality rate. Let's just let it run amok and see what it does.
No.
And now they're like, okay, it's still the mortality rate's one thing, but also just the chaos it causes through like the way it polarizes people and the way it becomes politicized and the way, fear versus reality and reality, it seems almost like this was the one that they were like, let's just test it out on the globe because it only has a 6% or whatever it is, 0.6% mortality rate. And now they're discovering like, oh man, you don't need a super deadly one to cause utter chaos. You can,
Yeah.
I mean, that's extreme. That's extreme, I know. But like, it just something about like the way that Trump is ending testing, he's pulling funding for testing, and he's saying shit like, well, there's obviously more cases because we're testing more. Duh. Like that's something that is so outlandishly fucking. I was like, if your 10-year-old said that, you'd put him up for adoption. I can't believe this fucking moron with my family name, and like the way that like even like from what I've heard that England's got a better grip on it now, but then I'm also seeing pictures of people at like beaches where it's like, oh, that looks like Florida.
No, they don't. They don't have a better grip on it. They've made exactly the same mistakes as America's made.
And like you see how South America's now fucking running amok, and like how Russia's like, we only had 7 cases, or whatever. And
yeah, but they've still closed all of Russia.
Yeah.
It's just 7, but we just wanted to close it, see what would happen.
Exactly. Almost sometimes you just look at it like this just almost feels like a coordinated event by the people behind the people who are like, let's just see what it does.
Once again,
I don't know.
No. I just think that is like the idea. That's why people gravitate towards religion. It's like, we don't like chaos. We like to have a reason to assign shit to. And that's like, I just don't think that makes any sense.
Well, I mean, the other argument against it would be that it was defeated quite handily in countries that had a sane and rational leader.
This is true.
We've got a super virus. Can anything stop it? Yeah, a little common sense. Oh,
what? No, we don't. We used up all our common sense in World War II.
Yeah, we're still paying off our common sense debt.
Oh my God, Tris.
Yeah, man, it's fucking because that's all. Like, I mean, how? But I don't see, and this tells me that something's going right. It doesn't seem like there's much coming out of Canada. It seems like Canada's just like, it's like we're fucked.
They closed the borders, mate. They closed the borders, and Canada, some of the comedy clubs have started back up. I mean, it's beneficial in that we're a very large country with very small population, but people don't live spread out. They basically live across like right across the border, really. I think 90% of Canada lives within 100 miles of the border.
Yeah.
So it is concentrated per se, but Trudeau took it seriously right away. Like his wife got it, so he didn't leave his house, and every day the nation saw the prime minister, because he'd come out and he'd do the talk, but every day they saw him taking it seriously, and they're like, well, that's the prime minister, so obviously something's up, because he's privy to information that we're not. And you got Trump, I don't have to wear a mask. Boris Johnson went shaking hands at a hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, when he got it, it was like, oh, no shit. It was like, no shit, really? Darn.
Yeah.
Too bad I bet money on that. I wish I would have bet money on that one. I feel like there would have been a bookie in Vegas that was like, world leaders, I want to take over under Boris Johnson gets it by April. I want him to cover the spread. I don't even know my betting terms enough. I want him to cover the points. There it is.
Yeah, I mean, well, it almost killed him. So I guarantee you, if Trump gets it. But I mean, that was the other thing I was thinking about, because everybody is so proud of K-pop for making that rally unattended, which I was too. I thought it was really funny how they were able to troll that high up, like even the president wasn't aware. But then the only other thought was, Well, you know, if they would have just consolidated all those people, like if they would have pulled the crowd, Trump probably would have got it, as would the whole crowd. And I don't want to see anybody die, but I'd like to see 10,000 people in Tulsa go, oh, it is a thing.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy's not right.
Still don't think they'll learn. And the thing that I was thinking about is like, it was so cool that K-pop and TikTok like they trolled that high, but also I think that they would have let any supporter in to fill seats, even if they hadn't registered. Like they just didn't show up, which is cool.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also thought they would find a way to, I mean, it's some of the spinster, I mean, and this is on both sides. I'm not just saying just the right. Like I've read some hardcore lefty spinster shit where you're like, all right, now you're just like, you know, now they're trying to cancel AOC, and you're like, what? What the fuck are you even talking about? Like, this is insane. This is like the guy who plays Russian roulette after he won. He won. He's like, I'm just gonna do one more. You're like, why are you gonna do one more? What the fuck are you doing? Like, but it's fucking insane. But like, I bet there would have been some sort of like, well, the left, the Antifa, that organized, mobilized unit that exists, which it doesn't. I mean, it exists, but it's a theory, less like the KKK has membership, you know, and then nobody says anything about them in Trump's administration. Antifa is a bunch of fucking dweebs with face masks who looked up how to make a Molotov cocktail online and still haven't fucking cracked it. And, you know what I mean?
Just been putting banana daiquiris in a bottle, wondering why they.
It's a bunch of fucking 28-year-old, like upper middle class, former tech dweebs who have ski goggles and face masks and like to talk shit with a camera nearby and help pull down statues when there's 50 more of them. They're not, you know what I mean? Like they're not a threat.
3 FBI agents infiltrated that are coming up with all the ideas, and they're all like, yeah,
we can do that. You're right. Look, man, Frank's awesome. He logged into this high-profile, highly guarded FBI page on how to pull down statues, and he's sharing on the Slack feed or whatever fucking group thing. But like like I bet if 10,000 people would have shown up and they would have all got sick, they would have been like, Antifa planted 5 sick members.
Yeah, it's just
as Trump supporters to go to this rally and spread the disease. That's what they would have. They would have found some way to like spin it into. The left still did it somehow.
Yeah,
it's pretty fucking insane.
Yeah. Should we do words though?
Oh, sure. Yeah, hold up.
You know, the point of the podcast.
Well, you know, we're catching.
I know.
I just I'm having fun.
I got 2 questions. One, do you think Trudeau he preemptively did that blackface thing on purpose just because he was like, if people figure out I'm this good at what I do, they might get suspicious that I am actually a titan or a demigod, which I am. So I have to look human and make a mistake early on that gets discovered.
Now you're just spinning.
Possibly, but here's something. I don't know how closely you follow Canadian politics. Trudeau is good.
Yeah.
But he's just placeholding for Jagmeet Singh, who's absolutely incredible. He's the leader of the NDP. You might reckon he's an observant Sikh. He's always got a turban on, but he's in some circles they find him more attractive than Justin.
I can see that.
He's a good looking chap, but he's even more Trudeau's more centrist, but Jagmeet's left wing. Like he's, but you know. Yeah. He didn't grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth like Justin. But it's almost embarrassing. We've got 2 really good leaders. Like the only problem is with Quebec. they because you need Quebec to win Canada, but there's a large problem with racism in Quebec, and they
You
yeah.
can't what? They're not.
They
Bonjour.
they did. I watched the debates, or they did one of the debates in Quebec, and the Quebec press would not let Jagmeet Singh talk about anything other than the ban on burqas. Quebec had a ban on burqas, or
Really?
and yeah, or religious displays or whatever. But it was for Muslim women. Basically, it was the Parti Québécois. They're not being great humans, and they just would, like, every question they were like, so if you were prime minister, you'd let this through, you'd make us not do this. And he's just like, he's just holding his head going, well, like I said before, it's a bad rule, you shouldn't do it. And in his, you could just see inside, he's like, I'm a fucking Sikh, I'm not even
yeah. Different religion, different beliefs, different people. Yeah. From different parts of the world. Or yeah. Yeah, I mean, like that was the thing with Trudeau with the blackface thing. It was like, because in America you hear all this awesome shit about him, but then the blackface thing, you're like, oh, okay, he comes from money. It's like an unfortunate reminder. Like, okay, he basically is just like, he's a better version. I mean, because the blackface thing is like, whoa, buddy. But it's also like, you also look at what he's done politically, and you're like, all right, so you're just a better version of the shitheads we have here. Because I believe you and me, if they found every fucking white politician in America's blackface video or picture, and I guarantee they're out there, or they were until the NSA destroyed them all. You know?
Yeah, and to be honest, Trudeau made a lot of mistakes his first term. None of those pictures were from his first term. Like, I think if you want to, if it had been if a couple of them had been like dinner with his wife 2 years ago, still in blackface, you know, the guy's in high school, or he was a teacher. To be fair with one of them, but apparently I heard that the black and white one, he's not actually in blackface, he's in blueface, because he was a genie. And that's why they keep showing it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the videotape of him I think they never did that because they knew of all the other times that he'd been in full blackface and clowning around in front of cameras. So they just apologized for it all. And of course, I'm not affected by blackface, so it doesn't it doesn't mean anything for me to go, well, I'm not offended. Like that, I'm not the one who makes that call. But I would think with a leader, you'd need more. If I thought he was a racist or a bad person, then I would use it. But I think he genuinely was sorry.
Oh no, I agree. I also think like there has to be some sort of like mindset that comes into play when things like this get discovered, where you're like, okay, hold on, let's apply some of the variables. How long ago was it? What actually, like, before it's just blasted out on the news, like, look at this awful shit. And you're like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's find out the context of the awful shit first, and then move forward with our reaction.
And what happened to him is he lost his majority, which is probably what that was worth. I would hate to see the Canadian government fall into the hands of the Conservatives. But again, we've got three parties, so the other way I looked at it was, okay, if he loses and Jagmeet Singh wins, then wonderful, you know.
Who was right before Trudeau? Well, didn't you guys have like a Trump before Trudeau?
Harper. Nah, he went a Trump. Harper, he was just business, but he was starting to silence scientists. That did happen in sort of a Trumpy way, but yeah, that didn't start with Trump, Sean.
Yeah, that started way back.
Yeah, our generation has done a lot of Trump blaming, and he didn't they're like, oh, he sold all those arms to the Saudis. Oh yeah, he's the one who started selling arms to the Saudis.
Yeah. You're like, I know that goddamn John Donald Trump. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, probably, maybe no. I don't know. I don't know which U.S. president started that. Probably Reagan, probably.
Selling arms?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't it. I think Eisenhower on the way out warned about.
Right. Yeah.
Military-industrial complex, and I'm pretty sure whoever came in after that, because that's a guy leaving saying, we don't have any power anymore. These people have the power. So whoever made that speech is whoever came in afterwards. That's when that started.
It is heavy when you think about that, but yeah, man, I don't know. Like I look at it. It's so funny how for years, like Canada has always existed in this, like, in my opinion, more like you're just kind of like above this insane. I remember Robin Williams, I think, made this joke. I think it was Robin Williams, but it was a joke, from like the 80s or 90s, that like Canada was like the dorky neighbor that lived above an amazing house party, something along those lines.
Yeah.
America was just like this, oh, we're fucking awesome. And then like Canada was, can you guys keep it down, please, there? Thank you. And now it's like, yeah, now Canada's sort of like, well, now they completely renovated that apartment. It's amazing. It has a balcony, central AC, and completely new appliances. And the house party has just become a fucking meth den.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I said, because as you know, I do hold my American friends near and dear. But being a Canadian, I've sort of watched you grow up, and I feel like a Canadian and Canada, America is now that cousin that you used to see on summer vacation and have a lot of fun with, and then you see him like 10 years later, and you're both in your mid-20s, and he's got a neck tattoo, and he's not the kid you knew.
Yeah.
It's been hard. We are not
not
the good sibling, not the good cousin, the weird family member for sure.
That's the thing too. I like to make the analogy that instead of it being one cousin, though, it's like the three cousins who are all like similar in age, who you kind of hang out with all together. And now one of them's got the neck tattoo. One of them definitely drops the N-word way too much and then acts like it's no big deal. But then one of them's like, no, I'm in college and I want to go to the Peace Corps. But the other two are like, shut the fuck up, this fucking dweeb, right? Randy, you're a fucking nerd. So like that's the thing that like I always stress whenever I travel, like because I feel like every time I've been to like Australia, or especially when you go to Edinburgh, you just like you end up having the like, yes, I'm American. Yes, all right, here they come, unload them, and they're just the fucking jump. Come on, we'll do this for an hour. But I always try and stress like, yes, that does suck. There are 360 million of us. Trust me, there's at least 100 million of us that are okay. We're good.
Yeah.
We care,
And that's what I have to remind myself, because America can seem funny. If you don't live there, Trump is actually quite entertaining if he doesn't affect your life in any way.
Yeah.
In that, like, it's like, well, this is ridiculous. How did this cut? But then I have to remind myself, like, no, your friends are very much affected by this monster.
Yeah.
Like it's to a point now. I got friends, like American friends, that I used to be able. We could gently rib each other back and forth about our countries, but now it's just like once you drop Trump, it's just like a long stare into the wheel well of the car and just like, I know.
Yeah.
It's not funny anymore.
No.
Yeah, it's also really like yeah, but it's also like a fucking, you're watching. What is funny is watching, and I find this fucking hilarious. I think most people do too, but you don't want to laugh at it yet. But like, you're starting to see this guy fucking crack. Like you start to read some of the statements he's making, and like the one where they asked him about a second term. Apparently, and this one was like a year ago. His answer, where you're like, this dude is falling apart. He's unraveling. Like not like because of the stress, just because of years of like being praised as a god and told he was the best, and the Donald, and you're so rich and everybody wants to be you, and you've got your own towers, and now you're president. You've got these supporters who will just follow you off a goddamn, not even off a cliff. You could tell them that I bet there are people who he could tell they could walk on water who would actually try. Like, I'm Donald Trump. I'm telling you, you can walk on water like that Jesus guy who I admire. Great guy. Jesus Christ. Best guy. Awesome guy. I knew him, worked with him. He's awesome. You can walk on water. He told me you could do it. There's a few that would actually try.
Well, people literally tried to drink bleach after he talked about that.
That was his
That's what I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, the walk in water simile is good, but you can't even beat the actual truth of what he said.
Yeah.
Injecting bleach. Yeah.
Just tell a bunch of people to drink Kool-Aid, and we might be better.
Dude, right there. There is something funny about watching, like, oh man, he's starting to crack, and even it's almost like he's even starting to turn on himself. Because there's that interview he just did where he's like, yeah, Joe Biden's probably going to be your next president because people don't love me, apparently. And you're like, what a baby! What a baby! Like not even like not even a real baby, like a shitty fucking, like I'm like he's the kid who's 7 in a stroller.
He's a Pixar baby.
Yeah.
He's a cartoon version of a bad baby.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous, dude. Anyway, so we're gonna be all right. I just decided that. So Glenn's word. So here's the words Glenn sent to me. It is to us. It is the words of Glenn's 5 words are ducks, NHS, idyllic village, toddler, and horror. So
horror. Yeah. Make sure you add the horror on that end.
Horror. Yeah. Here's what I think this story is all about. Now, as we kind of established, Glenn Wool is not just a road comedian. He's a worldwide traveling, done comedy, and everywhere you could do comedy. Glenn Wool has done comedy. Now, that's hard because senses of humor can vary from country to country, from culture to culture. So, and Glenn, I hope you don't mind me telling the people, the listeners, your secret here, but one of Glenn's secrets to how he knows jokes will work anywhere is he tries them out on ducks.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I remember you telling me this years ago. We had some drinks, and I don't remember, but you were like, "Look, if you could make
they're a migratory bird.
Yeah,
get around.
Yeah, been around. And if you can make a duck laugh, you can make anyone laugh." And I took that to heart then. But so that I'm guessing this story is about the time you were just out in the park making some ducks laugh. Right?
Yeah, in the UK.
Right. And even in the UK, you've got your Karens. So you got this nosy.
Call them their Susans.
Yeah. And she sees you, a big bearded, a baby, basically a Thor-like man, testing out just crude humor on ducks. And she's like, there's an NHS hotline we got to call because we got a wacko out here.
Yeah.
Right?
He's on the phone with them. This is happening, by the way, obviously in an idyllic village because that's where you find the best ducks.
Best ducks. They stay away from the cities. They're up there.
A lot of Susans, they wanted to get out of the cities because they're, minorities there. So there's a lot of people that are going to see you and call the NHS on you.
And so she's while she's on the phone, shouting at you nonetheless, because she can't just call the NHS and let them come handle it. She's got to let you know that she's calling the NHS on you. And as this is happening, you look over and this toddler comes running out of her house at you full steam and just plump just in the water, falls into the pond where the ducks are hanging out by. And you, being Glenn Wool, being the true good-natured burly man you are, you're like, well, now I got to save this kid. Pay attention, ducks, because I'm going to be doing a bit about this next week. Sploosh.
Yeah. And she looks over to her horror that her toddler has fallen into the water, and a wacko that she was calling the NHS on saved her toddler.
Right.
Baffling to this season.
And you look this toddler in the eyes to make sure it's okay, and that's when you realize, oh shit, this isn't a toddler. This is a very, very old man. Turns out it was her father who was trying to escape because he was like, I just want to die. I'm 98 years old. I'm a shrunken shell of what I used to be, and I gotta live with this. And to your horror, you were like, oh, I just basically, instead of saving someone, I just damned them to however many more years of existing with this woman. So it was a moment you learned, hey, when you're out there performing for ducks, stick to the ducks, you know?
Make sure there are no seasons. And that's the story. Did we nail it?
Unfortunately, no. Now that did happen, but this is a different story.
Different story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the real story? Yeah.
Yeah.
As I said, I mean, I'm worried about my child's first memory because he's around the age now that he's a toddler, and he's around the age that I had my first memory.
Okay.
So I keep thinking, well, what's it gonna be? So I'm trying to make his life as perfect as it can be, and it's been great because of the lockdown. You know, we've been going for lovely hikes and walks and bike rides, and the one thing he really did, he has the 8 p.m. Clapping for the NHS on Thursdays. He really liked that, and our flat is right on the village green, and this village is so idyllic that when I took my wife to the small town in Canada where my parents live, we bought a puzzle that just said English Village,
right?
And it's the village.
Huh.
It's the same village from the puzzle. That is how idyllic this village is, and it's got a duck pond right in the middle of the green. 7:55. The little guy's been walking around like, you know, we let him stay up that late on Thursdays so he can clap for the NHS. He loves it, and everybody in the village pokes their head out the window and comes to their doors, and this happened right in lockdown. 7:55. Everybody starts appearing, doorways, windows, ready to clap for the NHS, and it's always quiet, you know. People are sort of respectful of it, you know, because we were all scared too.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much you know about the mating rituals of ducks.
I know
they're terrible.
They are terrible. They got them.
They are
dicks. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like if you're a vegan, do not feel guilty about eating a male duck. They are. they should be exempt from any sort of cruelty. Like they are that bad. And 4 boy ducks were chasing a girl duck in the middle of the green, and she's squawking, and we're all just quietly watching this happen.
Oh, no.
And then a big duck, like a bigger duck than all the other 4 ducks, came like flapping in, and it was like seeing Batman come down, and you're like, yes, the mighty duck. Well, and all the other ducks were like, ah, like that. But just to tell you how bad ducks were, he was just joining in. He wasn't stopping the other ducks. He just budged in line, and we're all horrified.
Yeah.
It's just all quiet, and then the clock struck 8, and we all had to clap. Oh,
They don't
God.
mind.
Oh my God.
And that's what I'm worried about. Is this going to be my kid's first memory?
And the context is going to be weird, so it's going to be like, I saw a bunch of male ducks attack a female duck, and then we all started clapping for it.
Yeah, we clapped at duck rape. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you can't even like sit him down and explain. Like he doesn't have that much language. You're like, well, no, we were clapping but people were almost clapping louder to try and stop it. You know,
Yeah.
because it was in the middle of lockdown too. You could, even if you'd wanted to, you couldn't have come out of your house and broke it up, because then everybody in the village would have known, like, aha, you spread the disease. You got COVID all over the ducks.
But these ducks deserved COVID, right? Right?
male ducks too.
You just run coughing at ducks. I mean, that would be interesting if that was his first memory, and that's what spawned his writing career, because your son does have a very authory name.
Yeah.
Like in, you know,
Atticus
Atticus
Wool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very authory name. Wait, Glenn, what was your first memory?
Swimming in a pool in Mississauga, Ontario. It was I was 2 years old, and they kept telling me to be careful around the pool and not jump in. So I continually would wait to be not monitored, and then like run as fast as I could and jump in and sink to the bottom. And people, like, it's a toddler in a pool, so people would just be jumping in from everywhere. And I'd get up to the surface and just howl.
Yeah. That kind of serves as a good like layout of your life since then. You're just
Yeah,
why
well,
don't you jump in?
it's not soon after they just they let the ducks sort me out.
Yeah. That is also crazy that y'all lived in the village and no one would actually leave their house.
Yeah, no, I mean you could for an hour.
Yeah.
It was lockdown. You could exercise for an hour. That was the rule of lockdown.
Wow, because even here, lockdown still meant you could still go out, you could do whatever the fuck you want. Just don't get around people, stay away from people, but walk around all day. I mean,
Really?
yeah, it was. I mean, but we've been here in Brooklyn the whole time. I've never felt like people weren't taking it seriously. Like even on days
Everybody's wearing masks.
yeah, even on the days when like you go to the parks and the parks are still crowded, there's still people are still 6+ feet away from each other. No one's touching. Even during the protests, like you walk around during the protests, you still feel like, no, everyone's still taking this pretty goddamn seriously. Like people are still staying.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Well, you got whacked pretty early in New York, though, didn't you?
Yeah, that was pretty scary. Because I went into quarantine, like March 16th? And Sean, you came back a couple days later, and then I just like bulked up on groceries and was like, I'm not doing another run for a couple weeks. And yeah, we were hit pretty hard. But it's still kind of crazy. Like COVID has really hurt this nation, and I don't know anyone personally that has died from it. It's all like a friend of a friend.
I mean,
which is
lucky, you know?
it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's odd. Yeah. My niece got it. She didn't die, but she had it.
Mm-hmm.
She is a nurse though. So.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in Vancouver?
No, in Belfast.
Mm.
Oh shit! So like that happening. Oh wait, but fucking that happening with your son. Do you think? Speaking of first memories, like, because what is he? When you say toddler, what is that? 2?
2.5.
2.5. Like, I wonder like how his first memories will be of this. Like, will it? because he'll have to, you know what I mean? Like understand.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, it was
Well,
during quarantine. I was born, or not born, but
I think it's the best time ever to have been a toddler because
Mm-hmm.
you have the full attention of both your parents all the time,
Yeah.
and you have nothing to do.
Yeah, and you're not missing any like school year at all because you're just too young for it. Yeah, seems like ideal toddler time.
yeah. Unfortunately, the president of the United States is being like, well, I'm going to be like a toddler. I'm not going to do anything.
That's so true.
Yeah, but that is actually a good point because my sister's got my two nieces are about to be 6 and 3, and he says the same thing where she's like, it sucks. I'm around my kids constantly, but then it's also awesome because like just in the past few months, like, oh, this is parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Like not just
Well, yeah, I mean, and this is my first one, and I had him later in my life, so I don't have much to compare it to, but he does now come up, and I mean, he's not speaking perfectly, but he can speak in little sentences, and a lot of the time I'll be lying on the couch, and he'll just come tug my arm and say, "Daddy, come play with me." And I think I'm just in my head. I'm like, no, I gotta. And then I'm like, I don't have anything to do. Of course. All right, let's go play Lego.
Yeah, fucking A. I still when y'all came up with the name Atticus Wool, was there just like a quick high five?
Yeah. Oh, it wasn't me. I to be honest, I wanted Gordy because
Gordy Wool.
Down. Yeah, it's a classic Canadian name. You got Gordon, Gordy for any occasion.
Yeah.
But Gordon Downey
is still a good name. Gordon Wool's a good name, but that's more like race course, like Formula One driver, hockey player. Whereas Atticus, I believe now it's like poet.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
Like,
yeah. Atticus can be anything. Gordy would have 3 jobs available to him.
I remember the first time, I think Caitlin or I, the first time we met your wife, Alex, before, I think it was right before you guys had gotten married, though. I think it was when you first started dating.
Yeah.
But I remember it was at a bar, I want to say it was called the Owl in the Hackney area of London.
Mm-hmm. I remember this.
And the White Owl, maybe it was called the White Owl. All I know is you and I had been in communication. You were like, yeah, let's go to a bar. We chose this spot. We get there. Caitlin and I are there. You brought your wife, and we had like 3 more ladies with us. And we get in there, and it was like, oh, this might be the place where cocaine was invented.
Yeah.
This might have been the place in the late 60s where some fucking just like rogue traveler's like, I've got this cocaine powder, this powder from the cocoa plant. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. And another guy was like, I dare you to snort it, asshole. He's like, fuck you. And there it was. That place was just, whoo.
There could have been any reason for the lineups to those toilets. Maybe everybody had diabetes. You ever think of that?
Yeah. But I remember we're having like a good old time, all of us chatting, hanging out. But there was one guy dressed in an all-white suit who just kept, it was almost like anytime there was one member of the group of ours that was female that was left untouched, like no one was talking to her for more than a minute, he would just sort of appear like, hey.
Oh, no.
And we had to keep like swatting this dude away, like, go ahead, bro. Like he was cocaine incarnate. He was like,
yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Somebody didn't crush it up enough with their card. They left too much of a rock, and there he is. He's not. Usually that gets ground down into the product, but it didn't.
And that, unfortunately, was the most recent time I hung out with you and your partner there. So, next time, hopefully, there's not a personified Coke man or a pandemic happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think we're old enough to have dinners together. Nice dinners where we can chat.
yeah,
Yeah.
That
hopefully
sounds
when they
good.
start letting Americans into other countries again, because now
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah. Might be
we'll,
a
have
while.
to, we'll have to cook the same food in our respective apartments and then eat it on Zoom.
oh my God, that's a possibility of just being like, hey, how much butter are you adding right now? All right, I'm just gonna making sure I'm adding the exact same amount.
Yeah. The linguine is really good.
yeah.
Or we could sign up for one of those internet things of we'll chop the vegetables for you. All you have to do is put it in the pan. Well, I don't have a knife. That'll be wonderful.
Wait a second. Now a pan, I put this on the stove when I turn it on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I put it on this. Okay, just making sure I didn't just hold it separate from the stove. And
No
which
problem.
Yeah.
what? So wait, Glenn, where can people find you? Because you're still touring. You're gonna, or not at the moment, but you'll be back out there.
Yeah. Well, follow me on Twitter or my Facebook fan page, and that'll have all the updates.
Cool.
If they want to, I've booked in 2 gigs in July. I'm doing drive-in comedy gigs.
Cool.
People like it.
In England?
Yeah.
Oh, go check those out. Yeah, we're starting to do outdoor shows here in New York, and they're pretty fun. But like
Yeah.
drive-in, even safer, and you can fucking keep your shitty attitude in the car or honk when you find something really funny.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great, and there's a couple of different like it's not just comics. They've got bands, and I have always wanted to see Jaws at a drive-in theater, and I reckon someplace will be doing that.
Hell yeah. That sounds great.
It's funny because I'm picturing myself in a drive-in in a car watching this show where it's like Glenn Wool, then a band, then maybe Jaws and a panel discussion. And the thing that keeps popping into my mind is how weirded out I would be if I was sitting in the driver's seat with the steering wheels on the other side. Like I would still be like, this is so cool that they put this together. Also weird that the driver's seat doesn't have the wheel.
Keep trying to honk the horn and you can't open the glove box.
I gotta say, Glenn, you've always been one of my favorite comedians and people, but also just like you're a true raconteur and a true fucking gent and a human being.
Yeah.
And I love you, and I'm glad we got to do this, and I really hope to be in the same room with you again at a time where we don't have to fucking wear masks and we can bear hug.
Yes. And we will do that, and lovely to speak to you both, and just you guys stay as safe as you possibly can, and this will be over as soon as we know it, and we'll all look back and laugh.
We'll ride. All right, brother. You have fun out there. Gin o'clock is now continuing on the next hour.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
When the Americans greet you, they say, hey, how are you? But they don't really care how you are. Expected responses are good or fine. Have to know the person to get past that part. When the British greet you, they say, you're right. That always threw me off when I lived in England. 'Cause if an American asks you, are you alright? Something is serious